Welcome to One on One with Mitch Lafon. Joining me on this episode is Rival Sons drummer Michael MILEY. The band is currently on tour with Black Sabbath on their Farewell The End tour. We also talk about the re-release, the tour edition of the band's latest album, the Great Western Valkyrie. This wonderful, wonderful 20 minutes of audio took about 2.5 hours to do, as we kept having cell phone drop-offs and Skype drop-offs and so on and so forth. But we got it done, and it is a great conversation, so please do stick around for that. Also, stick around at the end of the show. When all is said and done, I have a pair of tickets to give away to Black Sabbath with Rival Sons in Montreal on February 23rd. So stick around, get a chance to listen to how and what you have to do to enter and win. But that's enough of this. Let's get on to Michael MILEY. I am speaking with Michael MILEY of Rival Son. The band heads out on tour with Black Sabbath for, pretty much the entire year, it looks like, right?
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about that.
Crazy, right? Actually, the dates go into
September
2017, but none of those are released. We don't even know what they are yet, but I think this tour is going to keep going for a while. But yeah, we have dates up until September, and it's pretty unbelievable. It's pretty much an honor to be invited by Ozzy and Sharon to be the opening band, direct support on this on their farewell tour.
Yeah, so talk to me about Rival Sons' sort of arc to success. You started off, 4 years ago, I guess it was?
It was, but we formed basically 2008, kind of started doing stuff in 2009. And we were in a van. We bought a van and just started going all over the U.S. and then got signed by Earache Records in 2010. We put Pressure and Time out in 2011 and began our Earache Records stint about then. And so, yeah, it's really been 4 years since we've been kind of
pushing it
on anybody's, radar in general, the world's radar, because with Earache, we're international. So it's pretty cool. And we play Europe quite regularly. So we're very lucky to have success there. We're just trying to wake up America, including Canada and the U.S. to our music.
Yeah, talk to me about the relationship with Earache, because having done this for years and years, Earache has always been sort of an extreme kind of label out on the cusp or the fringes of music. How does a band like Rival Sons fit in on that label?
Well, that was what we were asking ourselves when we first signed with them. And, it was, I remember actually specifically getting like an email saying, hey, these guys are interested and here's a link to their website. And, I click on it and there's like these, death metal album cover, with these like satanic, crazy, scary album covers, Napalm Death and Corrosion of Conformity and all these bands. And I'm like, is this a joke? Like we all literally thought it was a joke. And so they have now through us have branched out and have signed Blackberry Smoke, the Temperance Movement, the Biters, and have all kind of they basically have through us have paved the way for a new genre that they're now promoting. So I think it's wise, good, smart business of them to do so, and it's been a good ride with them. So no complaints.
It's been a good ride with them. Another person that's been a good ride with is the producer Dave Cobb. You've worked with him on many albums, including the last one, Great Western Valkyrie. Talk to me about how important Dave is to your sound.
Dave is basically fifth member. He's our secret ninja that we store in the back room, and we bring him out whenever we record. We've done all our recordings with him, so he's definitely a key ingredient to our sound. I mean, from the recording process, the mics we use, and the chain of, from the mic to the compressor to the tape machine to.
And this is where Skype decided to take a little break, but let's continue with Michael. Here is part 2 with Michael of Rival Sons. Yeah, let's get back to Dave Cobb a second. So he's like a fifth member, and when folks listen to this, you'll have to appreciate the fact that this has been an incredible undertaking to get this interview done today.
But I know.
The gods of technology have not smiled down upon us. We've had.
It's really funny. It's really, really funny. Are we still on the air right
now?
Yeah.
Let's keep going on. We're not even going to bother editing this. I'm just going to let people know that this is what happens once in a while. And this is like how a rock and roll show, by the way, should be. It should be somewhat dangerous and somewhat. But okay.
This is actually how a Rival Sons show will go. There's always like some, we never play a show the same way twice. We're always on the edge of our toes, waiting for somebody in the band to do something different or nuts, or Jay to sing a higher note, or me to count a song off too fast because I had too much Red Bull or something.
Well, in fact, you know what, let's get back to Dave in a second, but let's talk about that, because there's a lot of bands out there that are using backing tapes, that are using offstage keyboardists, that are using a guy under the stage to help with some vocals and blah blah blah. There's all kinds of quote unquote cheating going on, or at least I call it cheating.
Mm-hmm.
You might, others might call it enhancing.
Mm-hmm.
You guys don't do that. So talk to me about the importance of just being a rock show and a live show, and just being the guys on stage.
Well, part of it, I guess, is stubbornness, and a refusal to kind of go with the modern flow. It's we don't, for the most part, like the modern flow in most of the stuff we see. So we're all pretty traditional. We're all steeped in the blues and R&B and gospel music and Motown and Stax, old, basically Black American music from mid 20th century is what was the fuel for the fire of everything from Elvis to the Beatles to Led Zeppelin and Cream and the Who and Bad Company, and Free and Paul Rogers, and that all that music, that British invasion music, was inspired by Black American music. And so it's not a formula. It's just that's where our roots are. And when you listen to those recordings and read about them, and we're all nerds, so we read about like what Mike's, the books, the recording the Beatles and all this stuff, and you start learning and dive into how all these bands recorded stuff, and the Motown story, and and you just start seeing like they made this 14-song album in a half a day. Like they went in and just like basically played a show, and you're like, that's why there's a raw energy, there's a raw sound, there's like mistakes. You're like, why did they leave that in there? And like in the Beatles recordings, you have out-of-tune guitars, and some harmonies are a little iffy here and there, but it's like there's a feeling that you get, and it translates across the tape, and it's visceral, it's immediate, it's organic, it's urgent. That's the way rock and roll was intended. That's the genre of rock and roll. You take all that out and you just have rock. You have this like kind of watered down, canned version of rock.
Sanitized, right?
Sanitized is a great word.
But not for your protection. But do you see the band at some point as you go on down the years and wanting to experiment with more sounds that you just sort of can't reproduce with the guys in the band, and you're going to need to have something? Or is it always going to stay, no, we have to make it that we can play it on stage, and if it can't, we're not recording it?
It's weird because every album is we're recording. We write a song a day. We write and record a song a day. We don't do pre-production. We don't do anything that is preparatory. So we go in and it's like, 11 a.m. cup of coffee and Scott comes up with a riff, or Jay has a lyric, or I have a beat, or Dave Bestie will bring in a bass line or a chord progression or something that kind of kickstarts the day, and then we make a song out of that. And so if something like that was to ever come in, if we were to need an orchestra to back us up, like, because we felt the song needed it, then so be it. I don't think any of us really are in the mindset of like bringing in triggers or electronic drum sounds or like Lynn drums from the 80s, or we're not into the big ultra stadium reverb gated snare. I think thank God those days are past, although I will put on some Hysteria, some Def Leppard.
Come on, you gotta love it. But so let me ask you about the honesty of that. And speaking of Def Leppard, are there a lot of layers going into a Rival Sons record? I mean, is there 87 guitar tracks on one song, or is it really just as pure as can be?
Yeah, it's pure. Most of what you hear is guitar, bass, drums on the floor recording the song. And edits are usually bigger, longer edits. We're not like tweaking tiny little micro edits, like moving a bass drum a millisecond or something. We don't do that. We leave it as is, and then we'll go in and throw a lead guitar on it, or maybe a second rhythm guitar in the chorus, and then Jay does his vocals, and then we'll all come in and do some harmonies. So it's pretty organic. It's pretty much 4-piece band. Like anybody, you'll record a lead guitar or something. But on Great Western Valkyrie, we have some actual lead guitars that went down in the take. So we try to leave it as organic and raw as possible. It's kind of like the food kick. Everybody's into raw and organic now.
Right. So you're the raw and organic of rock. So let's get back to Dave. Now, I was talking to Joey Tempest of Europe, and he said, man, we love this Rival Sons band, so much so that we went out and got their producer to record us. So talk to me about what he brings to your sound, because we had started it and then we got interrupted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dave brings years of experience. He's a total nerd when it comes to gear. He's like, when we're taking breaks or if we go out to eat or something, he's on his phone on eBay and on Craigslist. Like, he's like, dude, I just bought the mixing desk that was used on the Kinks. You really got me. It's like, holy cow, he's got all this crazy gear and he knows about it. He knows what they were using on all those old recordings. He knows what they were using on the country stuff. I mean, he's blowing up in the country world too now. And he's just so knowledgeable. Plus, he's just a great musician. He's an amazing guitar player. He's got a sense of melody. I mean, his input is priceless, infinitely priceless. I don't think any of our records would sound the way they do without him. So I think he's a key element to our sound for sure.
Okay, so let me ask you about that, because and I'm going to go back to some of these older bands. The Scorpions had Dieter Dierks for many years, and that was their sound. But at some point, the relationship had to move on for both.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see yourself at a point where you just say, hey, we got to take this right turn and we just need to try a new producer, or we need to produce it just the guys in the band?
Oh, yeah, I have no idea. I mean, we just finished this one. So, and it's going to be released in May, and we don't think we have a title yet. I haven't heard if there's a title yet. We're mastering it, literally finishing mastering tomorrow morning. So, I mean, we're in the thick of it right now. So, as far as like what we would do in the future, I want to work with Dave Cobb.
He's your guy.
He's our guy. He's our George Martin. George
Sure.
Martin was with the Beatles,
or your Mutt Lange if we're doing Def Leppard, right?
Yeah. yeah.
Now the Great Western Valkyrie has been re-released, or a tour edition is coming out with bonus tracks. Talk to me a little bit about that. Black Coffee has, of course, been selected as the coolest song on earth. Talk to me about this tour edition.
Well, we wanted to release something to go with our tour with Deep Purple, and we just were out with them for 5 weeks in November in Europe, and we wanted something that we could sell that was a little different, add some bonus tracks,
Right.
and so we added a bunch of like acoustic stuff, and
Right.
wanted to be like a special thing for that tour. And then our plan is to release this new album that's coming out in May, while we're on the Black Sabbath tour. So it's always good to tour when you have new material out there. So
It really is. It's you'll be doing press, and you'll have all this sort of Sabbath press to help you with. Talk to me about the new album. I know you don't have a title for it, but musically, is it a departure? Is it more of the same? What do we do? What do we do exactly?
Mm-hmm. Well, like every one of our albums, there's always kind of there's always an X factor that's always different, and we haven't repeated that X factor yet. And so, it's the band is great. I mean, I'm proud and honored to be a part of it. It's everybody's a great player, and we trust each other musically, and so it's easy to just go into the studio and just start writing. And this one is just Jay always says it's a snapshot of who we are in that moment. And like literally, like I said, we roll in 11 a.m. and it's just whatever riff comes out, and we try to be as honest to the song that we're making as we can. So I don't think it's more of the same. As a drummer, I haven't repeated any grooves from any other albums. There's no riff that's the same. There's no lyric or melody that's the same. So I think it's pretty original. It's new. It's fresh. It's still rock and roll. It still sounds like us. And Jay is killing it. The tones are sick. The drums are like, I'm really proud of the drums, and the riffs are heavy and big and gigantic. So I think anybody who's a Rival Sons fan is going to love it, and I think we'll gain a lot of new fans as well.
Yeah, I really think you will. Now, you're opening for Sabbath. You've opened for Alice Cooper. You've opened for Judas Priest. You mentioned Deep Purple. What does the band have to do to be the headliner? Because it's harder these days. You don't really have a lot of tour support. You really don't have a lot of radio support. I mean, it's not like in 1983 or something. What does it have to do for you to be the headliner at the Bell Center in Montreal? Or
Yeah, I think we have to work our butts off just like
right?
we have been, and we're on a trajectory that's moving upward, thank God. And it's just going to be hard work. I think we're going to be more of because the way the music industry is now, it is, yeah, like you said, it is 1983 or 95 with like the grunge scene, or we're standing alone pretty much. I mean, there's a few bands out there that are trying to do like blues and R&B influenced rock and roll, and that requires a blues and R&B influenced band, and especially singer and songwriting. So I think we're going to end up going down into the annals of history, like more like a Wilco, My Morning Jacket. We're going to be, I think, more niche-y, and if we can make it to the Bell Center on our own,
I'd love to see it.
Yeah. I'm happy just to go out and play and have people come. And so if there was, 12 to 15,000 a night, that would be great. So I think for us, the trajectory is moving forward, and we just have to keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, and having a great song or a great album, unfortunately, is not enough anymore. I mean, it's a real pity to see what's happened in the last 20 years, but you got to work it. You got to tour, and that's what the band does really well. Veruca Salt was another band that you were in.
Mm-hmm.
Touring and studio member. Talk to me about working with Veruca Salt, because they were definitely their own little thing. In fact, I don't even know what you call it. Was it grunge? Was it alternative rock? Was it? I mean, it was just it was Veruca Salt, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, it was. Louise Post is I think the best female front person on planet Earth, and as a singer and guitar player, she's stellar, and a songwriter. And it was brief. It was just I don't know, I guess 2005. So it was kind of on their comeback, and we made friends. My old band Bird 3 opened up for them, and we became good friends and just stayed in contact. And then and so it was, I mean, I loved all that old stuff, and they come from the Chicago scene, from the Smashing Pumpkins and all
Right.
that, and um, so I think it does count as the '90s kind of grunge genre, if you wanted to give them a genre. But yeah, it was an honor honor to play behind Louise Post every night.
I can imagine. Now, you left the band and eventually made your way to Rival Sons. Was there any sort of fear in doing that? Because here you were in an established band, probably getting a good paycheck. Was it sort of a difficult decision to say, okay, I got to move on, and we're going to go try this new Rival Sons thing?
Well, it's I played with Veruca Salt for a year, and then around that time, I started playing on Last Call with Carson Daly in the house band, and so
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I ended up starting working locally, and I did that for 5 years. I got to do a TV band, and it was really a great experience, and like kind of growing up and stuff. I always kind of dreamed about being in like the Letterman band, or Saturday Night Live or something like that. I was um, always thought that was would be a cool gig. Questlove with the Roots on Fallon. What a cool job. You stay in town. You don't have to go crazy traveling all over the world and stuff. And
Easier on the family.
yeah, and so during that time is when I met Scott Holiday in 2005. Around that time, I was in Veruca Salt, and so and then we didn't get Jay until 2009. So um, um, it's just been a slow kind of like it took a while to root. It's like bamboo, it doesn't come up.
That's right.
So we're like bamboo rock.
Yeah, and I guess it's important also to get out there because your situation reminds me a little bit of Anton Fig. He was in Ace Frehley's band, Frehley's Comet back in the '80s, and then David Letterman gave him a gig, and he said, "You know what? I'm going to quit Ace's band. It's the guy from Kiss. It's exciting, but this is stable. I'm in New York." And
Hmm.
you sort of did that with Carson Daly, and so then again, here you are on network TV. Was it just you had to get out and play?
Oh yeah, well that as Rival Sons, formed and solidified and was validated, we were starting to get our songs in movies and TV commercials. We were the official music for IndyCar in 2010. I'm sure a lot of people don't know that, and we got to play on all these. We played it. We're the first band to ever play on the Indy 500 on the track during like the race weekend. I mean, we were in the pit. They built a stage in one of the pits, so we're literally there on qualifying day. With race cars going around us at 200 miles an hour plus, and so I mean, and then we were opening for AC/DC in that same year, 2010.
That's
So
not
we
too
got
shabby, I might point out, right?
yeah, we got a lot of really great validation really quickly, and so then we got signed to Earache Records, and then the story goes from there. But yeah, it was sort of like it's an organic process, that it's been this whole time.
Yeah, working hard. I can see our time is running out here because we were going to do 25 minutes or whatever. Lemmy of Motorhead recently passed away.
Yeah.
Were you a Lemmy fan?
I was the first time I saw Lemmy, it was on the Young Ones, and they did the Ace of Spades on that British comedy show. And I was scared to death. I was a kid, and I was like, "Oh my God, what is this band?" This guy's like super, scary looking, and when you're a kid, some of these like I was Metallica freaked me out. I mean, I was scared. My brother used to scare me with Iron Man, from Black Sabbath and stuff. And so yeah, so that was my first taste of Lemmy, and then I didn't really get into motor. I went to university and got a degree, and I mostly studied jazz, and I was in jazz band, and I was studying a lot of percussion and stuff like that. And then and then after college, I got in a rock band, and my 27th birthday, Lemmy was we were at the Rainbow Room in Hollywood,
and Lemmy was there. What a surprise!
Yeah, and there's a room upstairs, and that's where Lemmy likes to drink, and then we kind of reserved it for my birthday. It was actually a surprise birthday party for me, and then Lemmy comes up and he's like, "This is where I like to drink. Can I join you guys?" So Lemmy was at my 27th birthday party. I can claim that, and then we played a bunch of festivals with them, and it's hats off to that band and to Lemmy, and God rest his soul, and
absolutely
sad to see him go. David Bowie just passed as well, so he another huge influence on me, and Hunky Dory is one of my favorite albums ever. So
well, let me ask you about that then. What are some of your influences? Because you've toured, like I said, with Cooper and Aerosmith and all these things, and you had Lemmy at your birthday party, and you love David Bowie. What were the bands that were, at 10 years old, you had the posters on the wall?
Oh man, 10? That would have been
Menudo. No.
Motley Crue, Iron Maiden, Def Leppard.
There you go. That's the good stuff right there.
Basically all the 80s hair metal. That's when I was coming up and learning how to play drums, and I was a little kid with my all those posters on my wall. And I'm trying to think. I had Deep Purple up there. I had Led Zeppelin. I remember I had the 6-foot Stairway to Heaven one, the big, huge poster that was on my ceiling.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had all those. Basically, all the 70s and 80s. The cool bands, and coming up in LA. We had KLOS and KMET and KNAC. Those stations. So and being a drummer too, I was super into obviously Tommy Lee, Nico McBrain, and
Nico.
Ricky Rocket. All those guys were great drummers. I was also my sister was into new wave music, so even back then, if you look back at some of those old new wave bands, they were actually good bands, whether you like the music or not. Like Echo and the Bunnymen, they're all great players. The Smiths, the great players in a lot of those new wave bands. So I was influenced by my sister. My dad listened to Steely Dan and Eric Clapton, and so I was into studio musicians as well. And I went to jazz school, and so my influences go all over the place.
And if I may. I had a brush with Nico from Iron Maiden years ago. It was at the Arsenio Hall show they were taping, and during the taping they were making spots for guests coming up next week, and they had everybody stand up and say, "Let's cheer for New Kids on the Block that'll be a guest next week." And this one guy didn't want to get up, and Arsenio stops the taping and walks over to him and says, "Oh, well, everybody can't cheer except for this man." And he goes, "My fans would kill me if they saw me cheering for New Kids on the Block."
Yeah.
And as we all walked out of the studio, because I bumped into the guy and I said, "So what's your band?" He goes, "Oh, I'm in Iron Maiden." I was like, "Oh yeah, you're Nico." And that's where I met him the first time. So it has nothing to do with the interview, but I figured I'd have to share that because that's a good one.
That's cool.
And good for him to sticking to his guns. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you today, and I'll finish with this: Guns N' Roses, they're back, sort of back. We're not really sure. What's your take on that? Is that something you're excited for, regardless of who's in the band?
I've been wanting that for so long. It for me, I'm a purist. I would love to see. Though I'm good friends with Frank Ferrer, and I know Matt Sorum.
Frank is awesome.
I would love to see at least Steven Adler come out and do a few songs at least, or maybe you have all three drummers or something.
I agree.
I think it's got to be such if you were in management or the agents, it's got to be Fleetwood Mac times 10. It's it's got to be such a crazy. Contractually and what everybody's
it's a jigsaw
saying.
puzzle, right?
Yeah, it seems it seems unsolvable, like an unsolvable puzzle. Yeah.
Listen,
But I'm super excited. I mean, Appetite for Destruction is one of my all-time favorite albums. So, you know, there you have it. We've played with Guns N' Roses, we played with Slash, and I would love to see them come together.
yeah, it's going to be great. You know, Frank is great on drums. I'd love, like you said, I'd love to see Adler come in for either an encore or 4 songs during the set, whatever. But at the end of the day, as long as Axl and Slash are standing on a stage, you know, and not punching each other, we're good, we're good, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
really that's the bottom line.
Actually, it'd kind of be cool. But no, I'm just kidding.
Well, it'd be an added element to the show, right? It'd be like an Alice Cooper show, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but you know, Izzy, Duff. I mean, they're all so integral to a true reunion. You know, like those 5. You know, that's my opinion.
Right. But from what I can tell, nobody officially has deemed it a reunion. I had a press release that came out and said the return of, the classic lineup or whatever. So maybe semantically they're not calling it a reunion, but
yeah, I mean that's in their best interest to remain ambiguous because things are changing behind the scenes, probably daily. You know.
yeah, but it's going to be great, and when you're done with Sabbath, maybe in 2017, a stint with Guns N' Roses would be a welcome encore for you guys.
Oh yeah, no, that would be insane. I know their accountant, and I emailed him. I'm like, hey, I got an idea for an opening band. If you're talking to anybody over there,
yeah, please.
Yeah.
February 23rd at the Bell Center in Montreal, opening for Black Sabbath. I am personally very much looking forward to it. I will be there. Hey, maybe I can come back there and shake your hand and say thank you for everything today. And
yeah, hey, we cannot wait to get back to Montreal. So we're really super excited.
Yeah, it's been a while. In fact, I'm trying to think. When was it? It was 2012? No, 2013?
It was probably 2013, and then we also did 2014. We did a festival just outside of Montreal, an outdoor festival, camping and all that stuff.
Oh, the Montebello Amnesia Rock Fest.
I think that's what it was called, yeah. But we absolutely love it there. Every time we've played there, the shows have been great. The fans have been great. First time we were there was with Evanescence, and there's another band that we've toured with a bunch. So, but yeah, no, we're really super excited to get back there.
Yeah, it's going to be great, and I'll come by and say hello. That'll be fun, and thank you. Despite the gods of technology spitting on us for the last 2 hours, we've got it done, and it sounds great. So thank you for your patience.
No worries. Thank the listeners for their patience too.
There you go. Thank you, Michael.
Okay, great. Thanks for having.
And now, this.
It's the beginning of the end. Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, Tony Iommi, and Geezer Butler, the greatest metal band of all time. Black Sabbath, Bell Center, February 23rd, with special guest Rival Sons. Tickets on sale now. Call 1-855-310-2525 or visit eventco.ca. For VIP packages and more, hit blacksabbath.com.
And there you have it, folks. Thank you for listening to my interview with Michael of the band Rival Sons. They are on tour with Black Sabbath, and their Great Western Valkyrie album has been re-released as a special tour edition with bonus tracks. Check me out at Mitch Lafon on Twitter, and for your chance to win a pair of tickets to Black Sabbath in Montreal on February 23rd, 2016, head over to the One-on-One Mitch Lafon Facebook page, like the page, and send me a note explaining in detail why you should be chosen to win that pair of tickets. Thank you, folks, as always, and bye for now.